Yes, people, hope you're well. Welcome to the Sanderson Show on Big Up. Hope everyone's all good. Hope everyone's locked in and enjoying their day so far. Oop, just making sure I'm still live, going good. All right, people, a few things to talk about before you get your questions in and start asking me what you want. Obviously, you've got the Liverpool game tonight with PSG. Massive game in the Champions League. Looking forward to it. A little nervous, but I like feeling a little nervous going into games. It means there's high stakes. It means we're playing a good team, and there's something on the line with this one. I think we can afford to lose in Paris. I don't want us to lose in Paris. I think we can afford to lose in Paris if it's not a big result, because I trust and have confidence in the boys to get the job done at Anfield. But the better we can have as a first leg, the better things will be for us. So hopefully, things will work out for us tonight, and we'll do what we need to do. Right. Also, you got stuff going on with UFC 313 this weekend. Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev, a fight that has been wanted by MMA fans for a long time now. It's the age-old question. Alex Pereira is a phenomenal stand-up striker, kickboxer. Can he deal with someone with good grappling? I won't say elite grappling, because I don't think Ankalaev has elite grappling. I think he has very good grappling. But will he be able to close the distance? Or as Mighty Mouse says, will he be able to get out of the void and manage to take Alex Pereira down and keep him down? And could he go one step further and do the unthinkable and actually stop Alex Pereira on the feet as well? Big up to DNJ. Hope you're well, bro. Big up Curserson. That is harsh. I hope that one don't catch on, you know. I really hope that one don't catch on. Right. First question. Thoughts on the Aspinal Jones situation? Right. Oh, so much to unpack here. Right. Jones, I want to clear something up. In my opinion, Jones isn't scared of Aspinall. I don't think Jones is scared of fighting any fighter in the world. But I do think he's a smart fighter in the sense of he's very protective of his record. Technically, he has one loss on his record, but all fans know that that loss came as a disqualification that wouldn't happen nowadays. However, it's still a loss. It's still a legitimate disqualification, and it was a disqualification that was handed out correctly. That being said, I think he's very reserved about taking his fight of Aspinall. If you look throughout John Jones' career, he's gone into every fight with an advantage almost, whether that be through size, reach, or length. Making Daniel Cormier come down to 205, he's always had some sort of an advantage. Even when he fought Cyril Gane up at heavyweight, the grappling advantage was night and day, and we saw that with how quickly he was able to neutralize Cyril Gane. With Aspinall, I think he knows any advantages he has going into this fight are very limited, which makes him wary. He's fighting the younger man, the bigger man, potentially the faster man, and potentially the stronger man. So when he comes out and says he wants FU money to fight, then I get it, but it's also something he's never said before with any other fighter. I never heard him say this with Cyril Gane. I heard him say it with Francis Ngannou, which again, I mean, you see correlation between the situation with Francis and Tom Aspinall. He never says this about Alex Pereira. He says he wants to fight Alex Pereira. And look, let's call it what it is. The Alex Pereira John Jones fight would be bigger than the John Jones and Tom Aspinall fight. It just would be. So I can understand why he's angling for that fight, but because you have an obligation as a champion to fight the next in line, who is the interim champion, I think he should and has to do what is right for the organization. The problem is Jones doesn't have to live by those set of rules. And the heavyweight division hasn't been right since Francis Ngannou left the UFC. Francis Ngannou still is the lineal champion of the UFC heavyweight division. Now, he vacated, Jones won it, against Cyril Gane, who had recently lost to Francis Ngannou. Now, granted, Jones did it in way more spectacular fashion, but a loss is a loss or a win is a win, right? So Ngannou's already done that. He then takes the Stipe fight. When at the time, Aspinal wasn't ready for a title shot in terms of rankings and what it accomplished so far, which is correct. He gets injured. Really and truly, what they should have done at that time is say Pavlovich is next in line. Pavlovich and Stipe should be fighting. Dana didn't even express that option. He just went straight for Pavlovich Aspinal. So for me, that takes away Stipe out of the equation. Aspinall wins that fight. He becomes interim champ. He then has to defend the interim champ because Jones and Dana insist on having the Stipe fight, which should never have happened. So he then defends the interim belt against Curtis Blades. Now that for me, enough's enough. You don't defend the interim belts. Did. Then Jones beats Stipe. Naturally you think, all right, let's do it. Jones then calls out Alex Pereira. Completely no-sells Tom. And he's still no-selling Tom. If the dates are what the rumors are, International Fight Week, then it means Tom wouldn't have fought for around the calendar year. So Jones will actually be be the fighter without less ring rust. That probably benefits Jones, but at the same time, it also hinders Aspinall. Aspinall's a fight that wants to be busy. So that's mentally taxing as well as physically taxing because you're going to have to constantly be training in training camp because you don't know how long of notice you'll get for the fight. Jones is playing a role whereby everything is in his favor. And the UFC have to make a decision whether they take some of the power and control back or they let it continue and it continues to keep the heavyweight division in a state of a mess. There needs to be some clarity in that division. So we will see. DNJ, it's not just us, bro. It's not just us. Shout out to Bones99 says thoughts on Paddy versus Chandler. I think it's a really good fight for Paddy. It's a good fight for both men. We don't know what Paddy's takedown defense is like, and Michael Chandler's a very good wrestler. At the same time, we've seen Michael Chandler get caught in submissions, and we've also seen him get clipped on the feet. Paddy has good power for his size. As a 55er, Paddy has good power. I think Chandler's more explosive, but with that explosivity, is that even a word? I say with that explosiveness comes fatigue and tiredness. Now, experience is hands down Michael Chandler, who's fought the top of the top. However, Paddy looks like he's getting into his flow now. That Bobby Green performance was fantastic, or King Green as he's now known by. That was a fantastic performance. And I think that kind of gave a lot of pushback to some of the naysayers and his biggest critics who said that he would never make top 15 or top 10. He's on the cusp of it now. He beats Chandler. He goes into the top 8 of the division, I believe. That's massive for someone who's got such a big name. I think it's a very winnable fight for Paddy. It's also a winnable fight for Chandler, but because Paddy's the younger man, the bigger man, I think Paddy gets the job done, if I'm going to be honest. And I think he does it in quite spectacular fashion. And him being in that mix for 55-pound gold could be really, really fun. Big up yourself, Sammy Marcello. Hope you're well. Big up John Conway as well. Absolute legends. D&J says, question, how come you never jump on or watch longs with Jamie, Drift, and Matt? Honestly, it's a timing thing, if I'm going to be honest. The boys always invite me. I always try, but it's a timing thing. I'll just go into a little explanation. So obviously I've got Sanderson Show, I've got Coppish. Coppish takes up the majority of my time. And then obviously got 3 young kids as well. So that when I'm not filming, I'm tending to them. And then also doing a little bit of freelance work as well. So again, that's another thing. And then on top of that, doing the Sanderson Show. So the odd occasions where I do have some free time is usually me catching up with stuff around the house or catching up with editing and stuff like that. So hence why I'm rarely, if ever, able to jump on their watch alongs. It's also a reason why I don't obviously Luke and Jamie always volunteer, but I don't ask Matt Drift or anyone to do watch-alongs with me either, because I understand I can't commit to their watch-alongs and I don't want it to be a one-way relationship. I'm just thankful that Jay and Luke are very generous with their time and do that. But yeah, as when my youngest starts nursery and I have a little bit more time to play with, I reckon I should be hopefully. So we're looking around April, May. I should hopefully be able to jump on some more watch-alongs with Matt Drift and Jamie, because I miss out. I miss out on those because I do have some fun when I listen to them, when I get the odd occasion, or when I watch their watch-along. So it is something I do want to do. So big up D&J for asking. Big up the man, the myth, the legend. Chris Brack says, Callum, have you recovered from getting your UFC predictions wrong and beaten by someone who wasn't watching the product at the time? All right, so I'm going to give a little backstory to this. Chris Brack would never let me live this down. Shout out to Chris Brack, fantastic person. So back when Cyril Gane fought Francis Ngannou, I predicted that Cyril Gane would beat Francis Ngannou. I thought he would win a decision. I thought it would be too quick over the course of 5 rounds. And I thought to myself, if the fight's closed because of the issues that UFC had with Francis Ngannou at the time, I thought that if it was a close fight, that it would go in the direction of Cyril Gane. Chris, if I'm not mistaken, these were his actual words. He says, "Look at the size of Ngannou. No one's beating that man." And I said, "No, I hear it. Cyril Gane's a big guy as well." And Chris was like, look, he's just not losing." And I was like, "All right, we'll see." Lo and behold, Francis Ngannou won that fight, unanimous decision on all the scorecards. And since that day, I have never lived it down. And another thing I've never lived down with Chris is, before Sadio Mane moved into the number 9 position during the quad chasing season, Chris was like, "I think Mane could play in the 9 with Diaz playing on the left and Salah playing on the right." I said, "No, you're crazy." I was like, "He's struggling left wing. How the hell is that going to work with him playing as 9? Chris was like, "No, I see it. I can see how it works." Lo and behold, it happened against Norwich. That was the first game I think Klopp did it that season, and we didn't look back since. And those are the two things I've never lived down from Chris, and I don't think I'll ever live down from Chris. So that's why he's always got the upper hand when me and him have banter, because he's 2 for 2 against me and I'm 0 for 2 against him. So big up Chris. Also says, so from April, May, we get to see more Cal's bad takes and jinx. Unfortunately, you guys do. You're in too deep now, you guys. So it is what it is. Ngannou won't with no knees. One with no knees, which is mental. Yeah. I know everyone wants to see Jones Aspinall, as do I. I'm going to be so honest with you all, though. I think the best fight you can make at heavyweight between any two fighters right now is actually Francis Ngannou and Tom Aspinall. I honestly think those are the best two. That's the best heavyweight fight you can actually make from any two fighters. I know Jones is seen as the GOAT, but Jones did the majority of his work at light heavyweight. When it comes to light heavyweight, Jones is, without shadow of a doubt, the greatest fighter to fight in that division. A heavyweight, in my opinion, he's still relatively untested and unproven. I know he has 2 wins up there, but one's against Cyril Gane, who we've seen be beaten, and the other's against Stipe Miocic, who has been out of the cage for 4 years almost at that point, and was in no state to be in there, in my opinion. Aspinall versus Ngannou would be incredible, but I don't think we'll ever get to see that fight in the same way we never got to see Fedor versus Brock and all these fights in the past. If we don't get Jones Aspinall, it'll be one of the biggest stains on the UFC's matchmaking of all time. That's a fight that should happen, in my opinion. Shout out to D&J, says, why don't you want Endo to start tonight? I want to make myself a villain here. I think Endo has done fantastic in helping us close out games. Like, on a real, like, he's been brilliant. And one thing I will always admire and love about Endo is that he's so professional. You don't hear anything bad about him behind the scenes. And when he steps on that football pitch, he gives you absolutely everything, whether it's for 5 minutes or 95 minutes. He gives you everything. That being said, I do think there's been a bit of an over hype about his season. I think he's been good when he's played, but I think everyone is forgetting that there's a reason, in my opinion, why Slot doesn't have him as a starter. And that's because from a technical standpoint, from an athletic standpoint, I don't think he gives you what Grav and Matt give you. Now, the reason why I wouldn't want him to start against PSG tonight is because you look at their midfielders who are very, very technical and have very, very quick thinking. Vitinha, Fabian Ruiz, Desire Doué, João Neves, they all are so quick-minded when it comes to playing football that I actually do think playing Endo could look a little bit lost out there. So I'd rather go with the tried and tested Mac and Grav in the pivot and then Szoboszlai in the 10. Because I think we can match them for technique, but we can also be more physical than they can in that midfield as well. So that's why I've gone down that route. Big up to AJ Knows Ball. Bones99 says, on Nunez, no hate on him. He works hard, but even before he joined, looking at his highlights for Benfica, I was worried. Is there a moment with him where you knew it wasn't going to work out, or do you still think it can? This is going to sound like really arrogant. I don't want it to sound like this. I knew it wasn't going to work out when we were going to sign him. I, like you, watched him play for Benfica and watched his highlights and watched him play against us. And I think our fan base saw him on that day against us at his absolute peak, but we also played into his hands. I don't know if you remember that game against Benfica at Anfield where he had a couple of goals disallowed. Our defensive line was so high and left so much space in behind, it wasn't hard for him to do what he did. But even then, still, he was offside more than he was onside. So those were red flags to me. When I watch someone's highlights of a goal scorer, I look at them and I go, okay, would you have scored that goal past a better goalkeeper? And when I saw a lot of his goals for Benfica, I thought to myself, no, against better goalkeepers, he wouldn't. Some were going underneath the goalkeeper. Some were just going past the goalkeeper's hands. I'm thinking, all right. So you got some goals in there which are unsavable. But the majority of his goals I was looking at, I was thinking he's not going to score those goals in the Prem. One, he's not going to get that sort of time and space. And two, he's just not going to, there's better goalkeepers than that in the Prem. So those were the two things I saw. And then the first home game against Crystal Palace, just overly emotional, missing easy chances, and then got sent off. That was when I knew it was like, it's not going to work. I'll actually try to dig up the tapes. When he first signed for Liverpool, I said that he's more of an Origi replacement than a Mane replacement. And I said, you have to forget about the price tag. Really and truly what Darwin is he's an impact player for now and someone that you hope will get better. I will never question Darwin's effort. Apart from 2 games this season, I will never question his effort, his hard work and his endeavor. But from a talent and a footballing quality perspective, he's never been the guy. And I don't think he will be for Liverpool. I think he can go to Spain or Italy, even Germany, and enjoy a good career, but it won't be in the Premier League, in my opinion. It definitely would be for Liverpool. Chris Brack says, Endo, in my opinion, isn't ideal closer out 20 in big games. His lack of mobility passing range is lacking to be a regular starter. That's why Chris is the man. Couldn't have put that any better myself. Could not put that any better myself. Big up to John Conway, who's gifted 250 big bucks. Appreciate you, John, as always. Very appreciative. Appreciate that, John. Thank you so much. I don't know if this is a question, Chris. I don't actually think we do go to a City setup. I don't, because I think that'd be inviting pressure on. And the difference between PSG and City is they have more decisive players in the final third than what City did. And I think their midfield is better than Man City's now as well, or the Man City's midfield that we played. So I don't think if we do that, I think we're putting ourselves into big trouble. Because A9 said, I never wanted Nunez because of what the Benfica fans were saying. Yeah, that as well. Like Benfica fans were just like, no, he misses too many chances and stuff. And they were saying that about a man who scored so many goals. D&J says, question, do you think Chiesa will start any games this season? No, I don't. I really don't, unfortunately. Chris Brack says, my concern with Isak links are the price rumored. Is he available enough to justify the fee? Similar issue with Jota. Plus, when a link is in the press so much, they don't happen. LFC usually do work on the quote. I agree with that. One thing I will say is we broke down his injury record yesterday. Is nowhere near as bad as Jota's. And it's actually not crazy, to be honest, in comparison to what I thought it was. Not phenomenal, but it's not as bad. And if you have someone you can rotate with him. Plus, one thing I do think we have to give Liverpool credit for is how they've managed to keep players fit up until now. So there must be, it can't just be luck. There must be a good thinking about it and an execution about it. So maybe that could help his fitness as well. I just think Isak is the one to go for. I think he's the most guaranteed to do well. AJ Knows Ball says, if we keep 2 out of 3 of the big contracts, is it more likely that Liverpool becomes a dynasty or becomes a top 4 contender, and why? If we keep Salah and Virgil, I think it's more likely for us to become a dynasty, especially if we add Wright in the summer. Personally, but in an ideal world, all 3 sign. Bones 99 says, I was at the Palace game, brought my girl to her first game, and he gets sent off, kiss my teeth. At least she got to see that Diaz got, oh yeah, do you know what? I think we all forget about Diaz's goal in that game. He jinked past about 4 or 5 players and just buried it in the far corner. Beautiful goal. That version of Diaz before he picked up the injury that season looked like he was going to be the best left winger in the Premier League. Like he was electric. He just looked so good. It's a shame he got the injury when he did, because he was on course to be the best player of our team that season. Big up John Conway. Chris says PSG managed to dominate City in possession, and regardless of City's issues, they can dominate the ball, which is why I think we try and rope-a-dope them. It's a risk, bro. It's a risk. I hear you. It's a risk, though. A9 says, Cal, Lamine Kamara is a DM you thought Ugarte was. I keep on seeing and hearing links to Kamara. He keeps on getting compared to Kante as well. I need to watch him more to get a feel of what he does. Again, for me, Tchouaméni would be my first choice. Angelo Stiller, I'm a big fan of as well. Tchouaméni would be my absolute first choice. Chris says, Cal is all luck, as Arsenal fans would have told us. We've had no injuries and we're lucky. Arsenal fans, man, continue with the delusion. Chris Brack says, shame for Lewis Hall going to be out for the season. He's an excellent fullback. Lewis Hall is brilliant. Yeah, another player Chelsea let slip through the cracks. I don't know how the hell they did that. All right, going to be here for another 5 minutes, people, so just bear with me. AJ Knows Ball says, Hato, Belieber, and Sesko, or Isak and Gutierrez? Isak and Gutierrez. I think Gutierrez is on course to be one of the best left backs in Europe. I just don't think he ends up in the Premier League. I think he goes back to Real Madrid. Ferland Mendy's contract, I think, expires at the end of the season, and I don't think they'll extend his contract. Plus, I don't think he's that loved at Real Madrid either. And then I think we get Hato, but if it's between that option, it's Isak and Gutierrez all day. Those two walk into our starting lineup, and they do a madness, in my opinion, an absolute madness. Chris says, I'm not convinced Sesko is clinical enough. I don't think he's clinical enough yet. I do think he will become clinical, though. I think there's a real player in Sesko. I would not be upset if we signed Sesko. I don't think he's the player for now, but over the next 2-3 years, he could be excellent. He could be absolutely excellent. You look at his profile, you look at his height, his pace, his finishing as well, his ability to bring others into play. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if we look at Sesko in the summer. I really wouldn't. Any more questions? What have we got? AJ knows balls. Sorry, AJ knows ball. Pause. The streets will never forget. Hashtag 23 Diaz. Yeah, I agree. Question: thoughts on some DNJ? Thoughts on Arsenal's result last night? I saw Arsenal going through. I was really surprised that people thought PSV were going to knock Arsenal out. PSV are really not good. Never in my wildest dreams thought it'd be 7-1. I thought it'd be like 3-0 or 3-1. But yeah, it's a really good result for Arsenal, and it shows. Look, if they're more attacking, they're a better team than just sitting back and being defensive. So it'd be interesting to see how Arteta approaches games between now and the end of the season, especially on the Champions League games and the fixtures there, because that's their only realistic chance now, in my opinion, of winning a trophy. Chris Brack says, can we just sign Valverde? Simply solve so many issues. I'm sure Madrid won't mind. Valverde he's just a fantastic footballer. One of my favorite footballers outside of Liverpool. Think the 6-day gap gave Arsenal time to regroup and work on a way of using Moreno as a number 9. That's true. Yeah, that's true as well. Let me ask you guys a question before we wrap things up. You can sign one left winger if Diaz were to go and we still keep Gakpo. Who would it be and why? So one left winger. I know many of you say Anthony Gordon, so we won't use Anthony Gordon either, because I don't think he leaves Newcastle, because I think he's either just about to or just signed a new contract recently. So let's say it's not Anthony Gordon. Who would it be? Mbappe. Chris Brack says Mbappe. Bloody hell. No, you don't want much, do you, bro? Mbappe's actually doing pretty well as a 9 now. I didn't think he would adapt as well as he had. He started the season really bad, but he's really stepping into that role now and doing some good work. Rodrigo, I don't think he leaves Real Madrid, man. Kobe will go home. Yeah, I think we'll be going home, bro. I'd rather have your son Robbie over Gordon. Gordon's a good player, man. I don't like Gordon the person, but Gordon is a bloody good footballer. And Dembele, I mean, I'm not even going to just banter Dembele, because tonight he could do a madness against Robbo or Trent, or even through the middle he could provide some issues. A9 says, Cal, we're getting Rodrigo. Look, that would make Matt's year if we get Rodrigo. Here's a question then I'll ask you before I go then. If we did sign Rodrigo, does he start automatically ahead of Gakpo, yes or no? Given the season Gakpo is having, does he start ahead of Gakpo? Barcola, I don't think leaves PSG. Let me know, guys. Nate, what's your dream DM signing versus realistic? Dream signing is Tchouaméni. Realistic, Angelo Stiller. If Real Madrid do want to, or no, in fact, no, my dream would be Camavinga. Camavinga would be my absolute dream for the midfield. Tchouaméni is another dream, or he's a more realistic dream than Camavinga. And then I would say more realistic is Angelo Stiller. A9 Cal, what if we go back for Cava? We ain't, man. We ain't. Cava signed a long-term deal at PSG. If we did, it would be a miracle. Oh boy. Well, look, people, I'm going to wrap up there. I was here for a good time, not a long time. I'm looking to probably run this show maybe once a week, maybe even twice a week sometimes. So yeah, please keep that in mind. I'll try and figure out a schedule where I can actually have it at a consistent day and time as well, so I'm not messing you guys about with dates and times and all that. So yes, people, thank you all for watching and listening. Appreciate you all. Chris Brack, you're an absolute legend, because I know you're busy, so for you to jump in on this stream as well means a lot, brother. But no, people, you're all magnificent. John, once again, thank you for the big bucks. Really appreciate it. Until we see you again, people, take it easy. Have a fantastic rest of the day, and see you later for the watch along for PSG versus Liverpool.